I almost didn't press the right button there. Welcome to OnSet. I am Daniel. We are here in is it darker in here today? Does it seem darker in here? Let me know if it seems darker. We are here in beautiful New York City. It is a little bit rainy, so maybe that's the reason why. And it seems a little bit darker. Let me know. Anyways, today we're going to talk about, speaking of darkness, that was a segue. We're going to do a lighting workshop, as always. You probably don't need to see my headphones. I'll put those here. You probably still do. And we're going to talk about working with a small kit. If you've been following my YouTube channel, have you? I've been, over the course of the last several months, getting prepared to, because I haven't actually done it yet, slim down my gear. Because I've got a lot of equipment and I don't use most of it all the time. And I think that sometimes people are intimidated when they see somebody who's been working a long time or has a studio, that they can't get stuff done because they don't have enough gear, or they're traveling somewhere and maybe they bring too much stuff or not enough stuff or this kind of thing. Let me know if you can hear me, by the way. I could be speaking to nobody right now, which would be very embarrassing, but it wouldn't be the first time. And so today we're going to work with what I will consider a very small kit, including all the ways down to one light. We're going to create some simple, fun portraits of Marissa, and we'll go from there. If you have questions, let me know. I will try to name the gear as we're going. If I don't say what something is, ask. I will let you know. So number one, let me check to make sure everything's working. Hey, good, sounds good. Yeah, I put the cameras in a different order this time, so I had the sound wrong at first, but it's good now. Once again, sadly, Seth is not here. Seth is a busy man. He sends his regards and probably will jump in the chat and start yelling at me when I screw something up, so don't worry. So let's start with the basics here. If we're going to make portraits, and we're going to bring the least amount of gear as possible that's not just using the light that exists in the space, flash is going to be your friend. I often use constant lights for my work. I mix lights to do other things, but if you have to make a choice in this situation and you're a photographer, I believe flash is the way to go. The reason for that is flash is going to give you the most potential to control your space. And Marissa! Nobody realized you were late. She wasn't really late. Marissa just waits there until her moment.
Yeah.
So flash is really super important, and Marissa has flash. Well, I mean, you have that kind of flash, but you also have flashes. Oh, you have those flashes there that got.
Oh, yeah.
She does. So the reason why flash is good is because flash allows you to control your space. We're going to talk a little bit about that, why we want that, and then also mixing it with the space as we go. So let's just, as usual with these, I'm just kind of starting off with a big empty blank space. I think that's nice and easy to work with. Oh, for those who are going to ask me a million times during this one probably, because they always do, next demo, May 11th. Nobody knows this now, except for you that are watching right here. I don't even think Adorama knows this. Light meters. I know, I dug my light meter out, I have it, and we're going to talk about light meters, why we use them, why we don't use them, why we might want to use them, all that stuff next time. So before we get into that, let me know if is it too dark? New Zealand? Oh my God, do you watch Flight of the Conchords? Well, probably not. You must know about Flight of the Conchords. They're the second biggest, what is it, folk parody act in New Zealand. Sorry. Did you ever see Flight of the Conchords?
No.
Oh my God. All right, so first of all, Flight of the Conchords is like a parody band, and they had a TV show, I think, on HBO. I don't know how long ago that was. How long ago do you think that was, Nikki? Flight of the Conchords. Yeah. 2006. Wow, that makes me sound old. It was a while ago. But anyways, it's a very funny show. I recommend it highly.
2006?
Yeah. You were 9 in 2006? Yeah. That does not bode well for Marissa understanding the show. But she is wise beyond her years. Marissa was 6 in, no. 9 in 2006. She was not 6 in 2009. That would be the opposite. Okay, so I only think of that because they're from New Zealand and one of their associates works in the New Zealand consulate, I guess. And they always had like fun posters about New Zealand. Anyways, that was completely not about this at all. This is what happens when Seth's not here. Okay, so camera, Marissa, let's get into this. If I'm building a small kit, and we're going to build lights in general, I usually say 3 lights is what you want, right? And with the size of lights and the equipment these days, that's easy to carry. I carry my typical 3-light kit in this bag here. I did not zipper the back, and there was fear stuff was going to fall out, but luckily it did not. That being said, if I just said I'm just going to use the lights I always use, that wouldn't be any different than every other demo. So let's start off with just one light. What is the one light that we want to own if we're just going to have a single light? And to me, that would be a small flash or an on-camera flash, a speed light. Many, many ways of saying it, but a light like this. So with a speed light or a small flash, on-camera flash, we can control our space and create light wherever we are with something that easily fits into our bag. Los Angeles. All right, cool. South Florida. Oh, I lived in South Florida for a while. Very nice down there. Very warm. Not this time of year, though. This time of year, it's perfect. It's probably getting warm. Although I've heard they've had an unseasonably warm winter, at least on the east coast of Florida. Yeah. All right. Okay, so on-camera flash, as the name might imply, can go onto your camera. So let's just talk a little bit about flash before we get into anything interesting as far as like the composition or the quality of light. Let's just talk about power. So here we are in this space. And as you can see around me as we're shooting the video, that there is enough light here I could very easily make a picture or portrait with the light that's in the space if I wanted to. However, this light is not the light that I want in my portrait, right? This is kind of blah overhead light, LED lights. So if I want to control the light in the space, what I need to do is set my camera in such a way that none of the light in the space is going to affect my shot. Basically, take a very, very underexposed picture. We can do this pretty simply by setting our ISO at the lowest within the normal range. So that'd be 100 in this case. The shutter speed at the maximum that syncs with my flash. And we're not going to talk about high speed sync here. That's a whole other kind of thing. So we're just going to talk normal flash, which is 200th of a second. So I have those two numbers of the exposure triangle. Then I can bring in my third number, which is my f-stop or my aperture. What should that be? Well, ideally that's going to be based solely on what you want it to look like, depth of field wise, how much you want in focus. But in this case, we're going to use it as a limiter, right? So I'm going to adjust my aperture until my space becomes completely dark. I'm just looking at the back of my camera. I have a mirrorless camera. I can see here at 5.6, that's basically there. Now, if I make a photo like this, and we jump over here to capture one, which is where we're at, we can see that we basically don't see anything. This is what I often refer to as the black frame. We're going to come over here to our, again, this is capture one. I'm going to come over here to my exposure adjuster, and I'm going to bring it up and see how underexposed we are. When we start seeing detail on the front of her, so like here, okay, not the wall, because the wall is not part of our shot, we know that's really how underexposed we are. It's a little less than 2 stops. I could probably use a little bit more. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to simply come over here and adjust my camera again. I'm going to go to 6.3, take another shot. Okay. So at 6.3, we drag this over again, about 2 stops, a little bit more. That's plenty. So what does this do? This establishes 2 things. It gives us like a baseline for the shadow, right? So we can adjust our shadows in and out within 2 stops and we won't pick up any of this overhead light that we don't want. It also just tells us that any light that we see on Marissa is now from us. All the great, beautiful light, all the terrible, wrong light. That's all us. It's us now. It's all on me at this point. And that is both powerful and terrifying. So let me just take a bad picture to show you first how powerful flash is. This little tiny flash is sitting in here. I can turn it on. By the way, this is a Profoto A10. It's going to use something called TTL, which means through the lens metering. Make sure it's actually on. Yep. And what TTL does is it uses the meter in the camera. Getting ready for all the light meter questions. May 11th. We're going to take a picture with the flash. What we should get now, oh, beautiful. So some of you who may have been shooting or looking at magazines and stuff in like the early 2000s when Marissa was a kid, you know, you may have seen a lot of this style, basically bad light. This is just a direct on-camera flash, but we can see very easily that somebody in the audience right now is going, I really like that. And that's totally cool. You can like it. This is just a correct exposure, right? Correct exposure does not mean interesting or nice or whatever. It just means correct. We can get an exposure with our flash. Remember, with no flash, that's our space. That means all that beautiful or ugly light is on me, right? I created all that. All the light that's on Marissa, all the lights on the wall, every bit of that. It's all me. So this is why we want this, right? I'm in a pretty well lit space for video here. If you were in somebody's house or you were, yeah, I have everything. You were in somebody's house or you were, in a location that wasn't super, super bright, it's pretty easy, even with the small flash, even at like 5 or 6 feet away like this, to be able to easily get the room. And my flash right now is set at about 1/4 or less power. So I can get the space dark, I have control. Also, if you are exposing in such a way that none of the ambient light is affecting your shot, effectively you can very easily stop motion. Because you might be thinking, well, it's only 200th of a second, but it doesn't matter. Since there's no ambient light to pick up the rest of the movement, it'll be the flash duration, which means we can freeze her action. So it's a good way to stop action. It's a good way to control your space. It's really, really simple. Easy as that. So thanks for watching. No. All right. Let's see what we got here. Poland. Hey. Oh, is it the afternoon? No. Hold on. What? Guide number discussion. I did a video about guide number. Don't worry about it. For all practical points, people don't use that stuff anymore. It's cool to know. I don't want to confuse anybody, so we're not going to talk about that. But guide number, just so people know, since somebody mentioned it, is basically, more or less, should be in theory, the exact number that you'll get with an f-stop based on a distance and the power of the flash. That is to say, if the guide number is 100 at 10 feet, then you'd be f10, I think is how that works. I'd have to look at it again. But basically, you just divide the distance by the guide number, or the guide number by the distance. And it works pretty well if flashes are consistent. Okay, so. No, I'm not going that way. This is more about portraits than about technical. I just like to cover all the stuff because I feel like people sometimes think that being able to create an interesting portrait requires a lot of gear. In fact, one of the great things about, I don't know why I did that. One of the great things about all the technology we have and all the cameras and stuff is that with less and less, we can really create some interesting stuff, or at least we're gonna try. All right, so let's just do some basic stuff with the flash just to kind of show you what we can do. So people are gonna tell you, there was that book that was written in 1976 that a lot of people have. It's like, oh, well, when you put a flash on your camera, you never ever point it at the subject. You always point it at the ceiling. So let's bust that first. Okay, not bad in this space because I have a nice white space and she's looking up. We're now using half power. Look right at me. Not bad, right? But not great either, because when we really look at this, what we're getting is mud, right? If I start adjusting the contrast on here like you would, what you're going to find is the light is coming from too high above her, and what we're going to get is muddy eyes. This is fine if you're going to add some kind of reflector, but we can see this isn't ideal. What we want to do, if you were going to do that, right? If you were going to bounce the flash off the ceiling, because it's not 100%, I make a joke about it. If you're going to do this, make sure that your ceiling is relatively low and not super high like it is here. And also make sure you have some kind of a dome, like this one. You can't see the picture because I had it set wrong. There we go. Go back in time. Right now, we're going to wait for a second so all the comments can catch up. Okay, so this is what comes out of the camera. We'll just cut off that part where I screwed up. And on the surface, this looks okay, right? But it's definitely muddy, right? If we dig in here, we can see this light on her face is not that good. And when we start adding some contrast, like you almost certainly will, what you're going to find is that it becomes very dark in the eyes, right? It doesn't have life. And this is actually, again, I make fun of. Did I just repeat myself almost perfectly? I'm pretty good at remembering what I said. At least somebody's listening. Not me, but I'm listening. You want to put something like this dome on top of the camera. I'll just put it real close, that way I don't have to keep switching. What this dome's going to do is it's going to, not on the camera, on the light. What it's going to do is it spread it through some of the light forward, which is why we have in our eye that nice catch light, okay? So if you are going to mount something off the ceiling, then a lower ceiling is going to work better, and make sure you put some kind of a bounce on it. But better than this, right? We can actually bring a small thing with us besides our flash, one other piece of gear, that is going to help us make a much, in my opinion, I'll say much one more time, nicer picture. Now, first of all, let me just do this really quickly. If you're on your way to, somebody's like, hey, I need a picture taken, and you have a dollar store or something nearby, although these are not dollar store cards. These are made in Brooklyn. They're artisanal, but not everybody can afford these. So if you have a dollar store nearby, you can grab a piece of foam board. White foam board. It's not going to be perfect because it's not going to be natural color like these Brooklyn reflectors are, but you know, the cheap ones work. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our flash, and instead of pointing it like at the ceiling, I'm going to turn it and point it kind of back this way. And then we're going to give ourselves a lower ceiling. Now I'm just going to show you. I'll do a quick little, well, I'll do the modeling later. We can see with this, we can kind of aim it. I mean, it's not bright enough to see anything, obviously, but we can aim this a bit. Then we can go like this. Now we are going to eat a lot of light here. Yeah, there we go, much better.
Do you want to face more straight?
Yeah, you can face more straight on. So what whatever there. So this is this is very similar in a way to the first picture, right? Because it's very like harsh, but see how we're able to control the shadow more? Let's get it a little bit nicer. What we want to do is I'm going to do two things here. I'm going to remove this dome, okay? Because I want to spread the light out more. And I'm going to, which I put in my pocket, and when I lose it later, people can remind me. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to actually aim this like this to get a better aim. And we're going to create like that. There we go. Now what we've got is basically a nice, larger light source. We can see it in our eyes. We can see that even when we added contrast to it, we still have beautiful light on our face. We're not losing those eyes. In fact, we're getting just beautiful, beautiful blue in our eyes. Marissa does not look this good in person, believe me. So this is nice and simple, but of course you're not going to necessarily be able to go to the dollar store every single time. So besides a small flash, another piece of tool that would be useful to have in your kit is going to be straight up in a park. You know, I used to see people fire flashes all the time just on top of the camera just to add a catch light. That's kind of a thing that people do as well. All right, so this is the Manfrotto. Used to be a different name, but I can't say that name now because it's not called that anymore and it'll confuse people, but it's the Manfrotto Halo. So this, by the way, there should be a link to this. If it's not in the description already, there will be. This is basically a portable reflector. You've probably seen the little ones that pop up like a windscreen, which, by the way, one of the very first times I ever worked as a photo assistant, this photographer was like, go to the car and get all the gear. And I ran out and I got the thing that was in his windshield that was blocking the sun because I thought it was a reflector. But anyways, it's like that, except this one you could, if you do like tricks where like a dog can jump through it and stuff. No, but what's nice about this is you saw how small it was. Fold it right down, put it in your pocket. What's the only downside to this, in my opinion, although it is still my favorite, is that it does take a minute to put together. So you have to have some banter. So you got to, or Marissa to put it together. Yeah, so you just take Marissa. You got to do this. We're going to put these together like this. This is why when you see in videos of these things that people just like show it up, it does take a second. So the quick pop-up ones are great because of the fact they're so fast. But really, if you're going to actually take something with you, I think the size of this one compared to those, got it? Squish it.
Go. Oh gosh.
Nice. The size, as far as traveling, the size of these, and also just the fact that they're very sturdy and firm, make it well worth it. Now this is the diffuser. They do make one called a deflector, which is like shiny on one side and diffusive on the other. I don't have that, so I'm just going to use the diffuser. And we can do the exact same thing with the diffuser, because it's white and it will bounce just like, okay, just like that. And what we get, although it's really the exposure is a smidge dark, what we get here is an even nicer light. Why is it nicer? Because some of the light's going through the diffuser, and we're getting a little bit of that bounce around the room vibe going on. So I think it's really cool. You can get a silver thing for this as well. Let me make a quick exposure. Let's just talk TTL for a second. So if you're using a TTL flash and you make a shot and it's underexposed a little bit, you can do a couple of different things. You can make an adjustment on the camera to flash exposure compensation. You can do it on the flash. What I like to do with these Profoto flashes though is I just turn them to manual because I'm always going to be in the same spot, and I just turn the power up. That way it's going to be consistent for me. And again, we'll talk more about that in the light meter video, which we will do eventually. There we go. Yeah, try to get a little bit less. You can be straight on. Yeah, kind of project like a chicken. There she is, right? Nice and pretty, nice and clean, small flash on top of my camera, right? Now, again, it's not the softest light in the world, but it's pretty soft. And because the light's going everywhere, it just lights up the whole space. It's really great for impromptu portraits. And again, you can keep that in your pocket really easily. But how do we get more control? Well, you can do a few things. One thing you can do with this, and this is the reason why I like a diffuser as opposed to just a reflector, is you can put it in front of the subject, right? Now, I'm leaving the flash on the camera for now, but we will eventually take it off, obviously. If I take this and I simply put it towards Marissa, I'm going to go back to TTL because my exposure is going to change, and I bring my diffuser in front of her. What I can do is create a bit more of a directional light. And we can see now, again, this is bouncy, directional. See the difference there, right? It's a little bit less, especially in the way the shadow is. Like this has got a little bit of harshness to it, whereas this one's got a much creamier feel to the skin tone. And why is that? The reason why is because this one to the right is diffused. That's what diffusion does. It doesn't just make the light softer. In some ways, you know, technically this light is softer. I know people will be like, what? Because it's larger, right? But really this light feels much better. And again, all I have right now is this that I'm holding just in front of her. Now, you know, depending on if you have somebody helping you or whatever, or how good I can be, I can probably get it even closer to her to add a little bit more. At some point, it gets a little bit more difficult, but let's see if I can. Yeah, there we go. See, here the exposure's off a bit. I'll show you because I didn't hold it exactly right. So again, you do start to reach limitations if you're by yourself. We can see the light on her is a little bit nicer even than before, but you can see the line on her chest where I'm not covering the light enough. So let me try one more time because, you know, we always just like to keep trying. If you fail once, try again.
Oh, I blinked. I blinked.
Okay, one more. Okay. There we go. All right, so now you can see, again, I'm leaning the light down, which is changing the angle, and we can actually see it really filling up nicely. And what we can do is if you did happen to make that trip to the dollar store, and you have this as well, I'm gonna throw this into manual because once again, it's underexposing a little bit. Give me a little bit more punch. I'm gonna have Marissa hold this one because I only have one hand that I can use because I have to. I come in here. Okay, make sure you can see what I'm doing. Like this. Yeah. And boom, right? You can't see me. I almost pinched my screen. I'm using an iPad and a computer, so I keep, oh yeah, look at that. That is a nice, beautiful shot with basically something I could easily fit into a small bag. Real clean, real simple. Let me check the chat over here. 5-in-1 pop-up. Cool. Okay. Right, 5 at once. Is it also effectively a large light closer? Yes, exactly. This is basically making the light larger, which makes it closer, which means it's softer. Oh, thank you for sharing the link. Yeah, this is great. I would definitely, I don't have it personally, but Seth does. I would definitely recommend, if they've got it, the deflector one or the diffuser one. They make one that's a silver reflector, which I do have. I find it's a little too harsh for my taste. Your mileage might vary. I would get the double two-stop diffuser or the one that's called deflector, I believe, that has a little extra reflection on it. So nice and simple, easy as that. But you know, they told you in that book, never leave the flash on top of the camera, right? So actually, they didn't say that in 1976, because I got to tell you, in 1976, even though I was an infant, weirdly, I was still out there shooting on the scene in Studio 54. Was that even around the 70s? But anyways, people used to say, get the flash off the camera, and it used to be very difficult. Now it's not. So let's actually talk about getting the flash off the camera. So we can pretty easily take our flash off the camera. Right now it's not doing anything. You're like, Daniel, you just took off the camera. And if we use a remote, like this one, again, I'm using Profoto. There's lots of different brands that they all, almost every brand now has this kind of stuff. So no worries finding something that works for your budget or your system. This is the air remote. This is the flash. They work together in theory. Let me see. Make sure they're on the same channel. And stuff, blah, 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 see. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm turning the head on, sync first, zoom manual. Air on, air channel C. Okay. Oh, hold on. Cool. Just quickly check, make sure I have this on the same channel. This is C. I always use this as a transmitter, not as a receiver, so I just need to make sure it's set right. This is where test comes in. All right. Air group C, air channel 3, air on. Bluetooth. On. Head. On. Sync. On. Zoom manual. Contrast. Ready signal. Okay. All right. So now I'm in, this remote allows me to control this flash. So I press my test button, it fires. So obviously the most simple thing I could do is just take the flash and hold it in my hand. You know, this is not going to be very good, but let me just show you. In TTL again. Again, not going to be good, but just to give you an idea. Right? Terrible. Okay. Right? But that's hard light, right? We can use hard light in an effective way. It's just me taking the picture and holding it is not great. This could be fine if you had an assistant or you want to do something dramatic. I also have the little dome, obviously. And I also have this, right? So in theory, I could do something like this. Let's see if I can do this without. Yeah, I didn't think that was going to work. Okay, no, that was it.
I don't even know if it went off.
Yeah, it didn't. I mean, it did, but it didn't know what to do. Thank you, Marissa. So I'm trying to be minimal here. We're going to basically bust out oh, thank you. We're going to basically bust out actually, to be even more clever, because, you know, one thing we have to remember in life is sometimes you just have to go with the simple thing. So I'm just going to have Marissa take this, like this, and she's going to hold it out in front of her like you can do like this. She'll be like,
Okay.
Right? Like be all dramatically looking, yeah. So we'll make it part of your, exactly, but look towards the thing. All right. Exactly. All right, I probably should, I'll have to look through the camera to get a better composition, but we can see that we can pretty easily, even just holding it, make it work, right? If we're just having fun with it or whatever. Let's get a better composition just because I like that. Yeah, that's good. But look towards the light. Yeah, that's good. Turn it this way. Perfect. Just like that. Maybe I'm just going to go a little higher, say exactly like that because I'm not going to look through the camera. Okay, you're good like that. Hold, hold, hold. Here we go. Boom. Yeah, there we go, right? We're creating some interesting stuff here. Obviously, I'm not looking through the camera, which makes it more difficult to get anything truly interesting. But we can see how just moving the light closer can allow us to shape it. But let's do it for real now, right? Let's use a light stand. Now, yes, you're not going to carry with you a C-stand, but this is what I have in the studio, so you just have to imagine. This is, I was going to actually use this light, but you know what? I decided to use the speed light today. This is how I do things. This is a Profoto B10, very good. If you know you're going to be shooting stuff, this is worth bringing. But they make now, for the new Profoto system, I don't have it yet, a more compact version of this, and some stuff that goes with it. But this is basically a adapter, so you can put the A light onto a stand, which is what I'm going to do. And again, I'm using a C-stand just because that's what I have at the studio. You could use any kind of portable stand. Honestly, for what I was just showing you there quickly, if I had somebody here just to help me, you could easily do that. When I was coming up in Miami, we were just talking about that earlier, we used to just walk around with an assistant who would hold a flash in their hand, basically. We're totally fine. That's what we used to have the pocket wizards did. Back in the day when we were, okay, so. But I still like to make Marissa work. I'm going to still have her hold it because I want to prove that that can work. So we're going to go like this. Yeah, so she's going to hold it like that and be all dramatic. This time I can look through the camera and actually try to create something more interesting. Yeah. So look towards me, like just like that. Yeah. You can make a more serious face. There you go. That was a serious face. And again, I know she's holding her hands up in the air and everybody's going to tell me that's terrible. I'm just kind of showing you what can easily be done. Let me go in here though and actually direct the light. But we can see though, moving it closer to her, that we're able to get a lot more shape and form. All right, let's see. Oh, excellent. Okay, so there's a Flashpoint brand S2 that will have a similar thing. Awesome. For the flash, I'm assuming was what you're talking about. So Flashpoint is Adorama's brand, always good.
That's what I have.
All right, so I will hold it this time so that Marissa can be more serious, which will never happen, but you know.
More serious.
What we can do though is by moving the light in closer like this, we can get a lot more. All right, here we go.
Serious.
Yeah. Now we can get in and start to actually shape the light. Now, there's a couple of things that we can see here that are interesting that we're going to work on. One is that we can see how we're getting more shadow pattern and more depth, so kind of more of a more dramatic portrait. But also notice that the background, now that we're out of our silly mode, that the background now is becoming darker, right? Because the inverse square law, right? The closer the light source is to something, the faster it falls off. So it's close to her, so she's properly exposed, background is dark. If the background was to go as light as this, then she'd be completely overexposed. So this works to our favor. There are, you know, again, some issues here. One is that we're never going to be able to keep all the light off the background. That's because this space is just too small. Things are bouncing around. It's a white space. It's just never going to happen. So with this exact setup, it's going to be hard to achieve like a perfectly black background, but it could be done depending on where you are. That being said, we can get pretty dramatic here. So let's do something. Let's go here. I'm testing to see how long my hands are, basically. So I'm going to take this little dome off, even though I like it, because it spreads the light out. But in this case, we don't want the light to be so spread. It's going to come out the sides. So I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to turn the light, basically what's called feathering. I'm going to turn it away from, you can't see me because I have the wrong screen up. I need like a remote in my pocket. So I'm going to turn the light more this way, trying to get it off the background, basically. You know, as much as possible. It's not going to be 100% possible because when it hits the silk, it's going to spread out. But basically, we're going to try to set it up so that this light as much as possible, I'll turn on the modeling light so you can see, is not going to touch the background. Turn off the overhead lights. So the modeling light is convenient for this, but you really do want to get used to not using them for these kind of things because it's not going to be accurate to exactly where everything is. Yeah, I can actually see some of the lights hitting the wall over there still. But at least gives us a basic idea. In some modifiers, the modeling light really matters, but for a bare head and a small flash like that, you really can't see it. Okay, so because I just like to go for it, I'm just going to take this, I'm going to interpose it between Marissa and myself. We'll take a shot. Yeah, there we go. This is now more of a split lighting, and we can really play around with this. So I'm going to have you look a little bit more this way. Nice. Yeah, there we go. And now we're starting to get something, again, a little bit more dramatic. But again, we still have the issue with the background. We're not going to be able to control the light off the background completely with this setup. Is this real or is it Memorex? See, I just made an old joke there. No, we're always live, 24 hours a day. Just like the Home Shopping Network. Are they still around? Is that still a thing? Okay. All right. I mean, you can shop from home with anything now. You can shop from home with Adorama. Check out Adorama.com for the best deals.
This is the Home Shopping.
This is the Home Shopping Network. Exactly. All right, so let's switch up and use something a little bit different. Softbox. This is kind of a big softbox to be just carrying around, so I am stretching it a little bit. But I just want to just quickly show you that, because people often ask, can you do this with the speed light? I'm just going to quickly, since I have it set up, do a shot with a regular softbox to show you what we can get. Then I'm going to switch to one that I think will be more likely you'd carry with this kind of setup. So again, this is a Shimera Pro 2, it's called. It's a flat front softbox. That is, it's not recessed. And I really like this because it kind of throws the light everywhere, which is great if you're only going to have one light, which is what we have right now. So again, I have it in my softbox. I'm going to come here. I don't have any sandbags on or anything, so we're just going to not do anything crazy with this. We're just going to move it in close. Just going to real simple. Boom. Again, nice and simple shot. Beautiful softbox, and we can see even with the open front how much more control we have over the background. In fact, this is even a little bit hot, I think. If I were to take this down a little bit, which is probably what I would do. I'm just making a quick adjustment here to see if I would do that or not. What you really want to do is do all your adjustments in camera if you can. So if you're in Capture One like this, and you see a slight adjustment that could happen, like I just did there, you want to make all those adjustments, look to see where you're at, and go, okay, so I lowered the exposure by about 1/4 of a stop. We want to reset it. So we go back to where we started, and then I'm actually going to come in and actually adjust my light. Again, I'm in TTL, so I'm just going to switch to manual. I'm in the C group. I'm just going to turn it down about 1/4 of a stop. We'll take another shot. There we go. And now we're closer to where we want to be. Okay, beautiful soft light with a speed light, really easy. And again, because I still have this guy here, I can come in if I want and add just a tiny bit of fill in the shadow side. Okay, took 2 for good measure. All right. And we have beautiful, beautiful light, right? Again, it's one single small speed light you could easily carry. The background is kind of a dark gray because, again, we can't completely keep all the light off the background because of the nature of this softbox. It's not so much the size of the softbox, though it has something to do with it. It really has to do with the fact that it has an open front. It's designed to throw the light everywhere. But that being said, if we switch to a different softbox, we will gain some more control. So again, I like this softbox. I really busted it out because I just wanted to show that you can do it with speed light. I knew it was going to go that way. But what we're going to actually do is use the light box that I would normally carry with me, which is this one here. This is like my go-to box. It's actually my go-to box in the studio too, but certainly when I go on location, is a Shimera Extra Small, which is 16 by 22. It's silver lined and double diffused. So what that means is that we get a little bit of punch, if you will, from the silver, but the diffusing nature of it makes it so it's nice and creamy on the skin. So we'll see in a second what that looks like. The other one was white on the inside. All right, and not double diffused. All right. Okay, so this is smaller, right? So smaller is gonna be harder unless we get it in closer, which is exactly what we're gonna do. I'm gonna bring this right in nice and close. We can really adjust and shape it to what we want as far as the look. Let me just adjust my tripod. For some reason, my tripod's really low today. I think I thought Marissa shrunk or something. Okay, that's about right. All right, here we go. Again, I'm going to go back to TTL, and we're going to come in a little closer and see what we get. There we go. All right. So we can see smaller box. Quick fall off, but because of the position of the box on her face, we can see we have nice coverage. And we can see how beautiful that is just with the one light. It doesn't take a lot to get a good shot. And remember too, guys, that without the flash, that's what we get. Always keep that in mind. Sometimes it's easy when you're looking at a situation to go, well, there's all kinds of stuff going on. There's really not. This is just one light, one small flash that can easily fit in your bag on a stand with a nice quality box. Okay. Let's check the, let's see. That is true. Adorama does have a wonderful use equipment. All right, let's see what we got going on here. Let me know, guys, any questions that you might have. As we're cranking through this, what kind of system do you use? Like, what's your minimal lighting kit? That's what I'm always curious about. Like, what do people carry? I feel like a lot of people go with a reflector. They're just like, well, I bring a reflector just because I have to take a picture. And then they show up at places and the light's kind of junky, so they either don't shoot or they just use the available light and they don't take control. How many of you like just take a small flash like this and take it out and do stuff? I'd be curious, because for a while, that was a thing. Like, people used to, does that roll away? People used to call it strobist style because David Hobby, with the Strobist blog, kind of popularized it. Obviously, he wasn't the only one doing it, but he was definitely one who popularized it. All right, so let's go a little dramatic. There we go. Boom, boom, boom. All right, I'm gonna bring in a reflector. We'll get a nice finished shot. Fun. So, and also I just backed up a little bit because I was real close, and sometimes people think that like I was in too close because the light couldn't coverage or whatever. It had enough coverage, but you can see we easily have what we need here. So let's do a couple of other quick things. Number one, I'm going to cheat a little bit and show you a little hack. And that, I said Shimera, or Chimera would be the way that the mythological beast is pronounced, but the company is pronounced Shimera. There you go. That's it right there. All right. Shimera is by the way, they are the creators of the software. Aha, sound back. Sound is back. Okay, good. Oh, heart's happening. Ah. Yes, that's exactly what I was saying, actually. Oh yeah, I muted it because I may have been using foul language when we lost the uplink. But there's no proof of that. So we're back. I was saying exactly that, so if you read the chat. Flag. Flag is made out of duvetine. Duvetine basically absorbs light. We're going to use this to finish up making kind of a dramatic, hopefully. It's always good to end on a good note. We're never sure we're going to, but we usually pull it off. So I'm going to say with confidence that we're going to make a decent shot here. All right, so keeping to the minimalism that we've been doing, I'm going to come over here. Which way do you want to look?
This way.
Okay, she's going to look that way. Perfect. All right, I'm going to put the flag here. Now, typically, when you're doing something like this and you're projecting something out over the C-stand, make sure you have the weight over the leg. You probably should put a sandbag on this, but there's no weight on it, and Marissa's not going to walk back here, so we're not going to worry about it. So please, OSHA, don't come and say anything. So this flag is going to serve as our background. We can put it close to her because the duvetine will effectively absorb the light. I just need to frame it up so it's the right height and everything. Let me get myself a composition. All right, so you're going to be roughly there. You're not going to have a whole lot of room to move, but that's okay. Marissa doesn't need to move. All right. So this is going to be, again, using a bigger flag. We used to do this with floppies, which are 4x4 flags that fold out to be 4x8. Well, they flop out to be 4x8. Thus the name floppy. But they also used to have floppy disks, but that's a whole different thing. That was for computers. Okay, so we're going to put this behind her. We're going to check this out. We're framing it up so we can get all dark behind her. Yep, that looks pretty good. We've got the softbox there. It's on TTL. We're just going to take a shot. We're just going for it, guys. We'll figure it out as we go. Oh, yeah, there we go. All right. This is not terrible. We'll work on it a little bit. Nope, you don't want to see that. Let's get rid of that. There we go. That's better. Okay, so we've got a nice dramatic setup here. I'm going to frame it up a little bit better and get the light better, but that's not a bad place to start it. So here we go. We're working in a small space. How do you want to stand? Get yourself where you need to be.
Okay.
You be how you want to be. You can see yourself, right? Yeah. Okay.
Can I? Okay.
Well, no, I mean, you saw where you were. Do you want to actually see yourself?
No, you're good. No.
Okay, yeah. All right, so I'm going to frame the camera up. Once you get where you're going to be, I'm going to get everything set up. Again, this is really small and very particular, so that's perfect like that. So we have Marissa there. We're building kind of a hard composition here. I'm going to bring the light up and around this way to create a little more shadow to the front. The duvetine should be able to handle that. We'll see in a second. Here we go, and boom. Yeah, nice. Okay. This is good. Not exactly perfect, but good. Let me turn this off so we can see better. Good. I just want to give you a little more space. And I'm going to take my TTL. I'm going to switch to manual. I'm going to dial the power down a tiny bit. Here we go. Oh, nope. Hold on. I focused on the wrong spot. There we go. There we go. This is nice. It's 99% there. You're good. My only issue is I don't love the angle of the light on her face, so I'm just going to tilt the light down a tiny bit and then raise it up. This will get a little more light on her cheek, which, we all like. I'm not going to change the power because it should be good where it's at. Turn slightly this way. Turn right here. This way, a little bit right there. Good. Oh, you're leaning into the light again. Okay, good. Right there. Good. Nice. There it is. All right. Beautiful, dark, and moody. One final thing. We can pull it off. A little bit of fill. There it is. Sad Marissa. Everybody likes sad Marissa. All right, guys, so let's examine what we have here. We're in a completely white studio space. We have a completely black background, dramatic light on Marissa with enough detail in the shadow, except where it falls off here because that's purposeful. Really with stuff that I could pretty easily fit into a camera bag, except for the stands, obviously. The Duvetine you could take as a piece. I just had a flag. A black card could work, but if you put it too close to her, it'll get light on it. So that might be a little trickier, but in general, you can do this pretty simply with minimal gear. You don't need a whole lot to do this. Is there a link for the flag? I mean, we really need Seth. Let me see if I can find you the flag really quickly. Let me know in the comments if there's any other questions, guys, while I quickly do this. It's a 24 by 36 inch flag by Matthews, but other people make them. Sometimes called a cutter. Yeah, there it is. Okay, here we go, dropping the link. Boom, there you go. All right, so that's the flag. You probably could be looking at the beautiful picture of Marissa instead of my back when I was doing that, but that's okay. Any final questions? Counting down. If you're looking at this after the fact, thank you, Leon. If you're looking at this after the fact and you have any questions, I will come back and check the comments and answer them. Okay, let's see. Got some quick questions here. Would you say that lighting adjustments to get it right in camera are still practical to try when shooting non-models who may have real trouble reproducing a look? Yes. Just my thought there would be if you're shooting somebody who is a non-model, which I'm guessing you mean doesn't want to be there like hanging around all day working the pose, don't try something so precise that they can't move. But yes, still get it as best as possible on the camera. The goal for me is always that the person's going to look at the images, ideally in Capture One, but if not, on the back of the camera and go, yeah, done. Give me those JPEGs, I'll go home now and I'm happy. That's really what you want. If you're shooting something and you're just like, oh, that one's too bright, that one's too dark, this one I'll do this, it doesn't instill confidence in the subject. And somebody who's not used to being photographed will feel that even more, in my opinion. So yes, I still do that. Don't forget to like, yes, thank you. Please do hit the like button, guys. I'll be back in 2 weeks. We have maybe Gavin next week. I know Gavin and Seth are kind of rotating, so there might be somebody next week. There probably will be. Always check back. There's always cool stuff here. Videos practically every day on Adorama TV, but as far as the live streams, May 11th, I will be back. This is Marissa.Roper. I'm Daniel Norton, and I actually have it on the right screen this time. Good. Next time is going to be light meters. So everybody who has all those light meter questions, we're going to dig deep next time, so we'll get a little technical then. And hold on a second. Pretend like that I'm still talking. Closing screen. Okay, now hold on, come back. And I will see you soon. Did it do it? There we go.